So this is the thing, and I love talking about this, so I'm glad you hit this home. I think a lot of people that are on antidepressants in our world are trying to numb out their emotions and their trauma instead of just feeling it, right? Because when we feel it, we heal it, we transmute it. When you're on that stuff, it didn't make me not want to kill myself, by the way. Like I wanted to kill myself, I took the meds. They didn't make me not want to kill myself. They just made it numb. Like, so I didn't feel anything, right? If you knew me today, any of my friends, any of my romantic partners, anyone who's around me closely knows that I feel things so deeply, like so much more deeply than the average person. I'm here to feel everything until there's nothing left to feel, right? Feel into the depth. I'm the feminine, I'm the chaotic feminine. I'm here to feel emotion, right? And this is, I believe, a shaman or a healer or someone who is here to help people move through these tough emotions and heal them. They're here to feel things intensely. And so most people who are depressed or they're labeled schizophrenic or they're seeing things that aren't there or they're tuned into, I was labeled bipolar, right? So I have these extreme mood swings. Like I'm in bliss and then I'm in hell. And that's just how I am. And I didn't accept that. And I was like, I need to fix this. This is not normal. Like it's not normal to have these wild emotional swings and blah 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 chaos. And now I'm realizing it's not normal to feel nothing and just cruise through your day being numb to everything, right? So generally I think a lot of people who present with mental health problem, not everyone, I want to say not everyone, because I think not everyone is there to walk this path, but I think we need to realize that a lot of these people who are presenting with extreme cases of mental psychosis or this or that are having a spiritual experience, and we just lack the framework in Western society and culture to understand that. If I was in an indigenous community having these wild fucking experiences, they would be like, clearly she's the next shaman, we're going to take her and teach her, right? And what happens is in our Western culture, and what's been happening, and I've seen it happening, there's been a lot of healers being initiated, but they don't have by spirit. I mean by spirit, like they're just waking up, they're being initiated by spirit. They don't have the framework or understanding, and they're in a society which is telling them you're unwell, you need to get help, rah rah rah, whatever. And so they don't have that initiation, they're self-initiated, and so it's really difficult. The other side of the coin is that there is people who they're not necessarily depressed, they're just carrying a lot of heavy shit that they just need to release, right? So I think it's problematic when we start labeling things as a mental, it's only a mental problem. It's a mental, like they're depressed, they're this or that. It's like, I'm not depressed. I'm just holding grief from not only this lifetime, but all the lifetimes that I came here with memories of that just haven't awoken in me. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So I had to go off them so I could feel basically my connection to spirit. I could feel all the things that were blocking me from coming into my gifts, really, because it was trauma. It was trauma of being burnt at the stake. It was trauma of being hung, murdered, abused for being a witch. Like trauma of from my childhood with my parents, who I love dearly. And I in my, my older years, as I get wiser and I understand mental health more, I understand they were just doing the best that they could with what they had. And I don't blame them for how they were as a kid, but some of those things I experienced as a child were traumatic. So I just needed to release it all, basically, to be a vessel for something to work through.
Right. That's a really good way that you've gone through all of that. Because I mentioned it before on the pod, but I wouldn't say I've ever been sort of depressed, but at least not depressed enough to go on to antidepressants. But whenever I am, in the past, whenever I was feeling low energy or sort of certain signs of depression, in my head, I always knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and I didn't need all of this stuff. I just needed myself, and I knew at the bottom of my heart, I just need to find that light. So just give me some time, let me sort myself out, and let me get there. And I think that's one of the things that's helped me most on my journey. But then at the same time, and when you talk about Western society, and even earlier on, you talked about a lot of people are just stuck in a box. It seems like I was in a position where I could take the time to do this, but a lot of people, definitely in the US, if they struggle with like mental health issues, if we want to go down that route, then they go to the doctor and the doctor says, "I'll get on these meds," and you need to obviously pay for them, and to pay for them, you need to get back to work. So get on these meds now and go back to work. So a lot of people in the Western sort of the setup of the West, they don't have they're not in a situation where they can sort of bring themselves out of it, or they don't have the time because they might have other responsibilities. What sort of advice would you give to those people who are just stuck in this cycle and they're on the meds because they can't get out of the cycle that they're trapped in?
This is going to be ruthless, right? I'm going to sound like a fucking bitch right now. Um, and that's okay. And
Well, sometimes people need to hear it like that, right?
people will hate me for saying this. It wasn't easy for me to let go of everything. It wasn't easy for me to jump off a cliff and let go of my comfortable job and let go of the sport and be like, I'm just going to do this because I need to do this, right? There needs to be a desire that is bigger than the desire to be stuck where you are, the desire to change, the desire for more, the desire to get better. And it's going to get fucking worse before it gets better. And that is where the resilience comes from. Like, if my spiritual journey had been easy, I would not be this strong woman that I am today, right? So, this is not spiritual bypassing, and it might sound like it. Sometimes we need to fucking suffer and we need to go through the hard slog of like dealing with our stuff, of being broke, of being on our asses, of being excommunicated from society, whatever it is, to have the lessons we require as a soul to be strong and to get out the other side. So I'm saying to anyone out there who's like, it's going to be easy, like there's an easy route for me to do this. Healing isn't easy. It's not easy, right? And I'm saying it's not easy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that spiritual awakening for me has been this like tra la la. It's been great. It's been hell. I have literally been dragged through hell on this journey. Like things that I've had to endure and go through, most people would check out and not, you know, and I'm not saying I'm so tough and it's like the reason why I could do that was because of what was in me, right? And that's why I chose to go through it in the way that I did. So the message is like anything that you come up against, there is a part of you who, like you said, is capable of dealing with that. And you need to stop taking the easy route out. And I'm not saying that medication is the easy route because I was on the medication at the start to get me started on the small habits. So it's like the first step would be the small habits you can implement while you're in this system and this structure. You don't have to be dramatic. Like I had to be dramatic because I'm fucking dramatic and that's how I do everything. You don't have to be dramatic and quit everything, go off the meds like cold turkey and then just go on this spiritual pilgrimage. That's not for everyone. And that's not, you know, that's not realistic. But when you have that support, try to implement things in your life that are moving towards something higher, something better. So a journaling routine, go see a psychologist, go see healers, go read, do things. Like if you're stuck in this rut and you're not doing anything, you're not going to get handed this miracle cure, which is like, here's the fix. Like people need to understand it's not easy. You need to commit to it. And I think that's a problem with our society. We all want instant gratification. We start this healing journey. It's like my mom, she started this healing journey like 30 years ago and it got hard. She had to deal with some sticky stuff. And she was like, I'd rather just go back on the meds and not fucking deal with it. And then she's still complaining about not, you know, in the victim mentality. So it's like, you need to be able to and prepared to look at yourself, like really fucking look at yourself and face up to what you're not owning. And I think that requires courage and that requires a support system. So I think the ability to communicate to people around you, hey, I'm not okay, gives people the space to then share, hey, I'm also not okay. And then you have that connection and that support, but you can't be battling this on your own, being like, I'm an island, I'm going to shut off from everything, I'm going to avoid it, because it's just going to get to a point where we can take, there's two routes. We can work with the universe, right? The universe will either make it easy for us or gentle or graceful when we work with the universe and we say, okay, give me the support, whatever. I'm listening to the message. I need to change. What can I do? And solutions will come up. Even though it was fucking difficult for me, solutions were the right person, the right healer, the right circumstances. Even though I was broke as fuck, I was supported somehow to go through what I went through, right? I was always supported, even in those times when I felt like I wasn't. So we can take that route and flow with it and be like, I'm open and please help me and ask for help. Or we can wait until we have to have a tower moment. There's a tower card in tarot, which is basically if you get the tower card, you know, shit is about to fucking implode in your life and things will be, it's like the universe will whisper gently into your ear until you don't listen and don't listen and don't listen. Then it'll hit you with a bus, right? So it's like you can either get to that point where you avoid and void and void and you'll get hit by a bus, which is what's going to happen to a lot of people. And I don't want to doom and gloom, but like we're all, those of us who are ready to wake up, like they'll get hit with that bus if they're avoiding their stuff. Or you can say, I acknowledge and I'm going to start this journey gracefully and easily in whatever step I can, whatever resource I can in this moment. It doesn't have to be this, like I said, my experience of it, but just committing to yourself, like show up for yourself, do what you can, like find support, find like-minded people, stop engaging in the same patterns and behaviors. Like there's, you know, Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. And that's part of the reason I went to Bali, because I was listening to a lot of Joe Dispenza and he's like, you need to change your environment So you're not firing the same neural pathways all the time with all the things around you, same people, same job, same circumstances. You're firing the same circuits off in your brain, the same neurochemistry. Of course, you're going to stay depressed. So you actually need to sometimes take yourself out of that environment and go do something totally different to give yourself the opportunity to be in a different space, to create space for your healing. I hope that serves. I think something in there will be useful to someone.
There's a lot of useful information in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the willingness. Like you have to have the willingness. Because if you don't have the willingness, then you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay in that situation, that relationship that doesn't fulfill you, that environment that doesn't fulfill you. Ultimately, so this is a spiritual journey, right? We come into this world as babies. We spend all of our lives as, you know, children and teenagers learning who we are, creating this identity. We get to like young adulthood. Shit is actually really difficult. We don't think it is going to be, but then it's really difficult. And then we're like, oh my God, this is not what everyone sold me. And we start questioning our identity. The next step is to decondition everything that we think that we know and unbecome everything that we think that we are, to then get to that point of nothingness, because then we can rebuild as connected to the whole. The problem is people are so attached to the identity, to the everything that's around them, that they're not willing to unbecome and to look at themselves. Like you need to have a willingness to look at the uncomfortable stuff and ask yourself, why do I believe this? Why am I here in this job? What is it? Like, what's my desire for being here? Right? Because if you're in a job just to make money, it's like, why do you want to make money? Because I want to feel good about myself. Why do you want to feel good about yourself? Well, because society tells me I need to make money to feel good about myself. So you need to start questioning things, like asking questions. Why am I here? Right? Like that's the first thing. Start asking, why am I so depressed? What is it in my life that's creating my depression? What would I want my life to, what do I want to feel? Right? That is not this. Because planting that seed of hope gives you something to move towards. If you don't have a seed of hope, right? The reason for me going on this big adventure that I did was I picked up a law of attraction book, and I was like so cynical at the time. I was really depressed. I was cynical. I was in my bad girl era, like drinking and smoking and partying and whatever it was. And I was like, this is such a crock of new age shit and it can't possibly be real, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. If it was maybe real and I could have what I wanted, what would I want? And then I realized I didn't even know what I wanted. Like, what would really make me happy? So then it was this journey of like, well, what do I want? What would make me happy? What do I want to feel? Right. So it's starting to think about, well, if this is not making me happy, what would? And then going on this journey of exploring what would make me happy, what would fulfill me, right? Because what I'm doing is not working and it's not fulfilling me. And then you obviously go down the path of like, well, why have I chosen this for myself? And what am I getting out of this? Being here, being stuck. What gratification is my ego getting from this? But it having that anchor of like, what do I desire? What do I desire to feel? And that could literally just be like, I want to get out of bed and not want to kill myself. That could be as small as it starts. For me, that's how small it was. It was that, and it was I don't want to go to a job every day that sucks my soul. I want to do something that I enjoy. Right? I had no idea that this world even existed. Like it was so foreign to me when I wrote down my like what I want to create. I was like, I just want to help people by being myself. I don't want to have a boss. I want to work for myself. I want to be able to travel and live freely and have my own schedule. That was it. And I want to be able to talk. I love talking. I love acting. I love being on stages. That's it. I had no idea how good it could be. I had no idea I'd be having these mystical experiences every day, that people have to go take ayahuasca to have these experiences, the connection, the magic, right? But it started with, well, I don't want to go to a job, which I hate, and work for the man and be in this society. I just want something different. But it had to start with, okay, well, if not this, then what? So that inquiry piece of like, cool, I can acknowledge I'm unhappy, but what would I prefer? Gives you a why, because without your why, you'll give up. And that why needs to be stronger than all the things telling you no, telling you you can't, right? Because sometimes it actually, well, all the time, it requires us to get uncomfortable and do things that are so fucking out of our comfort zone, because our ego is so afraid of dying, of being proven wrong, of this, of that, that it will stop us. Like I've had to do some things that like were terrifying at the time. And literally everything in me was creating resistance so I wouldn't do them. But on the other side of that was growth.